The conclusion of the 2020 WHL Bantam draft. I'm here with Tri-City Americans general manager and the holder of the 4th overall pick in this year's draft. Bob, what was your preparation like for a draft like this where everybody's online? It's not what we're used to. How did you guys go about getting ready for this year's draft?
Well, certainly our preparation was the same as far as our meetings, trying to get our lists in order from the province and then in order by position and then your overall list. And you know, there was a lot more time in preparation when you didn't have the provincial camps at the end. We used to finish off with Alberta and then not have a lot of time to try and tidy everything up. So a lot of the scouting was already done. We got a little bit of a taste of it in Penticton at the CSHL championships, but that was cut short as well. So I think there was a lot of preparation time and you know, it was a transition going online, but I thought it worked exceptionally well. Obviously, from our standpoint, we had our scouts online and we made the picks remotely, but we were able to have discussions throughout the draft. We had conference calls set up where we could have discussions throughout the draft. And in some ways, there was less distractions, guys coming by your table and breaking for lunch and, you know, closing your computer or you know, those types of things. So in many ways, the focus was solely on the draft. And I thought first time through, it was an excellent job by RinkNet and the WHL. And I think we got our message out. A lot of people followed online and not only the WHL site, but many other sites. So I think it was a tremendous success.
So looking at your guys' draft, obviously holding the 4th overall pick, you guys from the Delta Hockey Academy, you go with Lucas Drasevich. What about his game do you think is going to translate well to the Western Hockey League, and what caught your guys' eye to take him so high in this year's draft?
Well, certainly he's a high-profile player. He put up a lot of numbers for a defenseman. He's got tremendous skill, tremendous hockey IQ, a very fluid skater. See him as a guy that can quarterback the power play, good size, good bite, and compete to his game. Obviously, he's been well coached, not only from his dad, but at Delta Academy. We just see him as a guy that's going to step in at 16 and make an impact right away. And it's so difficult to get elite defensemen. We were fortunate getting Marc Lajoie a couple of years ago, and now to get Lucas. We felt that there was a greater depth in forwards, and that we felt if we could get an elite defenseman early, we could still get some highly skilled forwards after that, which was sort of our plan going into this.
Well, that segues perfectly. Looking at your next 2 picks, you picked up Deegan McMillan with your 2nd round pick, and then you picked up Tanner Gould with your 3rd round pick. Deegan McMillan played for Delta Hockey Academy. Tanner Gould was the captain of the Calgary Bisons in the Alberta Major Bantam Hockey League. So these are these high-skilled players you're looking for. What are the characteristics of a high-skilled player to the Tri-City Americans?
Well, for me, work ethic and compete is the first thing, and then couple that with hockey IQ. I mean, the skill's very important, but you know, there's a lot of highly skilled players that have come and gone through the league. And I think the game now transitioning to speed is part of it, but speed is also puck movement and being able to think the game quickly. But in the end, you still have to compete and win one-on-one battles to be successful come March in playoffs. And you know, the character of the player is very important, because generally players who have tremendous character and work ethic will overachieve, and players who maybe lack character or are a little bit more perimeter have a tendency to struggle more when the going gets really tough.
So moving on, you had 2 picks in the 6th round, 2 really great picks. You know, in my opinion, 2 players that slid a little bit in Carter Savage, and Drew Freer. Drew Freer was the captain of his team for the Calgary Flames. I actually officiated a couple of games he played this year, and it's funny because I had him in Bantam AAA and in minor midget, and he's the exact same player in both ways. He's chirpy, he's skilled, he's a good player. So how do you feel about getting those 2 players in the 6th round?
Yeah, they're both high-value picks at that time. Carter Savage, I think, is an underrated defenseman. He's got good size. He's 6'1". He skates well. Tremendous character, again, which I mentioned too. Was a leader on that Delta team. And Drew was a player who just kept getting better all year. And maybe his best hockey was in the playoffs when they had success in the playoffs and being a leader on his team and being so competitive. You know, our guys were really high on him all year, but as the season went on, they got higher and higher on him, and certainly in the playoffs, fell in love with his effort and how he led his team in the playoffs.
So you guys finished off the draft with a couple of U.S. players that you selected, including a few players that were at our U.S. Challenge Cup. Did you guys plan on using your last couple picks to select these U.S. players, or was that just the way the list ended up coming out?
It kind of how it ended up coming out. Those were guys that we considered drafting at the U.S. Bantam draft, and obviously there was only 2 picks. There was a number of different factors. We had contact. A lot of contact seeing those guys during the year, not only at the U.S. Challenge Cup, but earlier in the year in tournaments. And then later we took the Nelson boy out of Chicago Mission, who I happened to see in Shattuck. So, we're excited to add some U.S. talent to the list. We feel that we should be able to, get these players to a training camp so they can experience the WHL experience and learn a little bit more about the WHL and hopefully make some decisions. We're hoping that there's going to be training camps this year like everybody else, but certainly as the draft went on, we felt, we didn't take a goalie this year. We felt that the goalies that were of interest went before we picked. With the quality of Lucas in our first round on the back end, we only picked 2 more defensemen. Lightwood being one of them from Alaska, and then we added quite a few forwards, and we got the two boys from Alaska, Lightwood and Anderson, who both played for Eric Feldy, who's an ex-Tri-City American, and Anderson, his uncle is our team doctor, which is a nice story, and the boy from Dallas, his father Stan used to coach Jack Barnes' Stu's son, so. There's connections, those ways. And we feel that we have a fair opportunity to try and recruit some of that high-end U.S. talent. And we felt we had a good base this year in the draft with, as you mentioned, Gould and McMillan and Freer and Dragosivic, that we could take some U.S. kids and without affecting our depth on our depth chart.
So the draft's over. Again, let's hope the training camp starts. For all these players that were drafted, what's the next step for them?
Well, I think to enjoy the process, enjoy the day. It's a tremendous day. It's an exciting day. It's finally something really positive for hockey, not just the WHL, but for these players. These young kids are just kids, and the biggest message I have to them is you've got to enjoy the experience and the journey. And if you do that, you're going to enjoy your training and coming to the rink every day. And you're going to develop as a hockey player, and hopefully you're good enough to play in the WHL and move on, and whether that's to pro hockey or to Europe or to youth sports or whatever. But you can't look too far down the road. You got to really enjoy the process and enjoy the friendships you make coming to the rink and developing a work ethic. And it's uncertain times right now, but for these young kids, it's a big thing for them. They're playing the best hockey they can play at their age group, and they're all in an elite group, and not worry too much about who got picked here and who got picked in what round and where and what the stats were, because in the end, all that stuff doesn't matter. Now you've been selected by a team, you're in their organization, the door opens for you, and you got to be prepared to take advantage of these opportunities, because hockey is a game of opportunity. So now it's about preparing and enjoying that preparation, so that when you get an opportunity, you can be successful.